Kylie Daniels-Diehl, Senior Director of Global Influencer and Communications at Amika. Welcome to Marketing Girly.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm very excited to have you on and talk all about your marketing career journey. Before we get started, can you tell me a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Absolutely. So, as you mentioned, I'm Kylie. I've been in this industry for over 10 years, always in beauty. Love it. Will probably never leave it. And currently, I lead a team of about 6 people at Amika, handling all things influencer, communications, PR, and eventing.
Amazing. So lots of fun stuff at Amika. For those who aren't familiar with Amika, because it's a new brand that I discovered this year and am obsessed with. Like I told you, I'm literally wearing the dry shampoo right now and it smells amazing. So for those who don't know, can you tell us a little bit about what Amika is?
Of course. Amika is a hair care brand. We have been around for almost 15 years, started off in the professional channel, so salon only, and then have come into retail. We're currently in Sephora, and the most exciting news is that we're launching in Ulta on December 1st.
How exciting. Okay. So like I said, I've only recently discovered Amika and you're telling me been around for 15 years, which is news to me. Are you new to Sephora? Have you been in Sephora for a while?
We've been in Sephora for a few years.
Really? Okay.
It's been our main retail channel as well as loveamika.com, so D2C, direct to consumer. And so this Ulta launch is really, really exciting because it's really creating the brand to become a omni-channel retail brand.
For those of us who don't know, even me, I'm still learning about the beauty space. And obviously, we recently got to see Rhode launch in Sephora, for example, and just like how much more accessible it made that brand. So what does it mean for your brand to be able to launch in another retail like Ulta, and like what does preparing for that look like?
It's exactly what you just said. It's meeting our consumer wherever they shop, and there's been a lot of demand for us to come to Ulta. So we are just so excited to have listened to our community and now have made this possible for them. And in terms of bringing it to market, I was actually just in New York celebrating this launch. Ulta has a group of women called the Ulta Beauty Collective, women and men that are a part of their marketing program. So we engaged them this past weekend and week, and then we have some really fun launch rollout plans come December 1.
Okay, so lots of stuff leading up to kind of create hype for the launch.
Definitely. Social plays, eventing, and just really fun community plays as well.
And great time before the holidays.
Definitely.
Yes. Okay, do you have a favorite Amika hair or any product that you think the marketing girlie should try?
Yes, I have 2. Perk Up Dry Shampoo, if you haven't used it, you need to. It is the best dry shampoo on the market.
I can attest to that.
Exactly. Anyone who's used it loves it. And then Soul Food Nourishing Mask. It's an in-shower mask. I used it this morning. It will never make your hair softer than it does.
So your hair looks great.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. So now tell me a little bit about what your role entails. Obviously, I'm sure there's a lot of moving parts, but what does like a week in the life look like for you?
So, week in the life in my role, as I said, it's no day is ever the same. And it's a really fun job, I will say, bringing together our teams, whether we are on set at a shoot, at an event with our community or our creators and editors. And then, of course, internally, we're working cross-functionally with all of the creative teams, product marketing teams, NPD to ensure that we're bringing the best possible product to market and showing up for our community in the way that they want to receive this information. I think it's really important to speak to your community versus speaking to yourself.
Absolutely. Okay, I want to dive more into this and your perspective on influencer and communications and industry trends and all of that stuff, but I want to rewind for just a little bit and talk about how you got to this role in the first place. I know you mentioned that you've always worked in beauty, and I think a lot of marketing girlies would also love to work in beauty marketing. And I know for you in your career, being an account executive was maybe kind of some of the start to it. So can you rewind us a little bit and take us back to how you first kind of got started in this industry?
Sure. I was a communication and writing major at Syracuse University, go Cuse, and I was really convinced that I wanted to be a magazine editor. However, my senior year, an opportunity came through my sorority to be an account coordinator at a boutique beauty PR firm in New York City. And I had wanted to move to the city. I had loved beauty. I liked that this job worked with editors and was in that world, and I was like, let me just start here. Not necessarily as an editor, but I can be in this industry and be close to it. So I took this job as an account coordinator, 22 years old, right out of college, and I absolutely fell in love with it. I fell in love with beauty. I fell in love with PR and communications and marketing. Worked my way up quite quickly in the agency world, came into account executive, came to a bigger firm, and I was also working at this agency when influencer became a thing, when bloggers came into the scene, as we called it back in the day. So I felt really lucky to have been a part of this world and actually build these divisions as it was happening in real time. So I feel like it was kind of ground zero when I was in this world. And then I decided to move to Los Angeles just for life. And that's where I found my way in-house with Murad Skincare. Started off as a manager of global communication and experiential events, I think was my title at the time. Was with Murad for almost 6 years. Left as the director of integrated marketing communications, which I was overseeing at that time, PR, global comms, and influencer marketing and events.
What a journey. So
Yes.
I know you mentioned at the start of this, you got a job in beauty, but it maybe wasn't necessarily the job that you wanted, but it was your foot in the door into beauty. Is that something that you would recommend for somebody? Maybe they can't get the exact, influencer or social job that they want in beauty, to just get any job in the industry?
Absolutely. I think if there's a piece of the job that interests you, especially when you're entering a new field, a new industry, a new workforce, making connections and networking, as cliche as it sounds, is going to be your best friend. And it's going to be the way that you can get to the dream that you want and ultimately the job that you want. And I can say that without doubt for myself.
Yeah. And how about, so you mentioned you then kind of went into the agency route, and I've talked to lots of guests that have worked in agency, and everyone loves it. It's a great experience, and they usually end up going back in house, which is, I know, the same thing that you did as well. But you were mentioning to me earlier that you mentor people who are also trying to make that switch from agency to in-house. So can you share some of the advice that you give those people that are struggling to make that transition?
Yes. Talk to everyone. If you have a friend of a friend of a friend who knows someone somewhere, ask to chat with them. I think the power of connection, again, is going to be your best friend. And that's why I'm happy to do what I do with these amazing women. I think also when you are building your resume, it's good to show tangible metrics. Your eyes will naturally gravitate towards hard numbers. So budget numbers, dollar signs, anything you can show within your resume of the metrics and the goals and the KPIs that you've achieved is going to be so much more impactful than saying, I led X campaign or I hosted X event. Tell us how many people, what was the ROI? And it's not, I know you can get caught up in maybe, you want to tell a larger story. You want everyone to understand the breadth of what you do on a day-to-day. But I think pinpointing a few really, really impressive campaigns and putting that into your resume is an absolute game changer.
I love that advice. And I always like to say with marketing girlies, if you are creative, it's really good to remind yourself to put in those metrics and to put in those numbers. And it's such a great example if you can say, yeah, I created social posts, or I led this campaign, or I worked on this project, but what was the outcome of the project?
Exactly.
What KPIs were you measured on? I always love to give the advice that you want like at least 3 numbers in each experience that you have on your resume, ideally more, but being a lot more mindful of those, because that's just also draws my attention when I'm looking at a resume. I'm going to the numbers because that's going to be more telling for me of an applicant than just another bullet point.
Absolutely. Also links. My resume was filled with link outs.
And would you link out in the bullet, in the work, just like in the description? Oh my goodness. So what would you link out to?
I would link out to articles that I had achieved or, gotten with editors that were super impressive, whether it was campaign related, product related, or thought leadership related. Also any press releases that were really incredible that myself or my team had led and created. So like an introduction of a new program, that could be sustainability, that could be campaign focused. Whatever you can give is just just another tangible piece for whoever is looking at your resume to get some context. I think context is key.
I love that. That's so unique. I don't think I've heard that advice before, but I think that's so important. I even recently read a job opening at Sky Society, and people didn't even link their LinkedIn. I was like, at least you could just like have that little link at the top. You're submitting
Absolutely.
a PDF, like a bare minimum, I want to be able to go to your LinkedIn and then maybe you can link some media there. But I think that's such great advice to actually directly link the things that you're talking about in the bullets of your work description. Would you just say like, if you're talking about a campaign, would you just like kind of organically link it in the bullet, or would you say like read press release or like kind of directly call out to the
Organically linked.
organically link? I love that.
So it feels a little bit more of like a journey.
Yeah.
And you want to be your best cheerleader, right? You want to cheer yourself on a bit. And I think, especially as women, we tend to make ourselves a little bit smaller, but I think you need to make yourself as big as possible and really celebrate your accomplishments. So if that means adding 10 links to your resume, why not? It's just giving that interviewer additional context, resources, a little bit of insight into how your mind works and how you approach creative thinking. I think it's a great tactic.
That's amazing advice. Any other gems you got for us? Anything else on applying to jobs that you feel like is helpful or can help someone stand out?
I think if you really feel a job is for you, to go to the job, let's say on LinkedIn, look at the company roster of people, and if there's anyone from your college that you recognize, a friend of a friend, if you can find the HR recruiter, why not shoot them a LinkedIn message? You never know what can happen, and I think sometimes you'll be surprised at the responses you could potentially get.
You also mentioned the importance of just talking to anybody and doing coffee chats with whoever you can. Do you have any advice there? Because sometimes when I talk to girls, they might be a bit intimidated to reach out, or they might not know, like, do I just directly ask for it, or what do I say? So can you maybe demystify a little bit of that for us?
Definitely. And I get some of these, so it's quite relevant. I think always having almost, I don't want to say a purpose, but something that's a little bit more specific versus just, hey, I would love to chat with you. I love your career journey. Like, tell me why you want to come into this world or what the switch is you're looking to make, just so the person you're looking to connect with has more context into you, what your goals are, and it feels a bit more realistic or tangible, however you want to say it. It feels a little bit more rooted and grounded in a purpose versus just a loose type of, do you want to get a coffee? I think context is always key.
Okay, that's a good tip, because also I'm sure if you feel like a message is just like generalized or sent out to the masses, I know even I get messages like that where it's like, this isn't even really about me. This just feels like you copy and pasted it and sent it to a lot of people. So I feel like, yeah, maybe personalizing it a bit to who you're reaching out to, and then mentioning, yeah, why your goal ties into that person that you're asking about.
The best messages I've gotten is, the past brands that I've worked at, they've mentioned how much they love a certain product, or they saw a campaign that we did or an event that we produced, and it resonated with them. And I think it's the sweetest, most flattering thing. And then it kind of leads into why they want to come into this world. And I think that's the best way to approach it.
Yeah. And I feel like all of us can relate to that. Or if you love,
Definitely.
And you can use the dry shampoo, you can just like put a little mention in that. And that I think also feels more personal.
Agree.
And then do you recommend that people ask like for 15 minutes, 30 minutes? Do you think it's best to be like really specific with the ask and the Zoom? Or do you feel like you like it if they leave it more open? That way you can direct what that meeting looks like?
I think a little bit open is totally fine. I think it also depends, is this virtual? Are we in the same city? What is the ask? And I think once you respond, you both can figure out the best time and place for the both of you.
And then let's say that somebody they're asking somebody for a coffee chat and they really want to work at that brand. Sometimes I know they might be like, well, can I ask for a job? Is that too forward? Or kind of what would you recommend that they do to kind of close that coffee chat if they really want to work for that brand?
I think, of course, they can say, can we please stay in touch? Absolutely. And I think my response to that is always, stay on top of our careers page, our LinkedIn page, because at the end of the day, even if, this person is perfect for a team or a role, if the role is not open, we can't do much. And I think that's where in-house, it's why it's kind of this, it can be, kind of concepted as this mystical reach, because the roles are so curated. Whereas at an agency, you can have 20 account executives senior account executives, it's a little bit more fluid because you're working across multiple clients, whereas on a brand, you have one team and likely 1 to 2 people in every role. So it's a bit more rare. So it really is a bit of luck and timing, I will say also.
Yeah. But I feel like I always love that the saying that you create your own luck, and you're not going to get lucky if you're not talking to anybody.
And proactive.
Yeah. And you never
Exactly.
know who you're going to talk to at the right time serendipitously, or who you will talk to. Maybe they don't have a position open right then, but
Absolutely.
then when they do, now you have a contact there that you can reach out to and let them know that you're applying. So it just, I think building momentum for yourself.
Absolutely. And I will just tell a quick story. So when I was at Murad, I was hiring for an assistant manager of PR and events. And this girl messaged me on LinkedIn saying she had applied. I read the message, thought she was amazing. I hired her. So
Oh my goodness.
it does work.
Did she say anything special in her message to you?
She just told me why she would be right for the role. And I agreed with her. After I saw her resume, she linked her resume, told me she had applied, would love to have chat. And I sent her resume to HR and they pulled her into the process. And she went through the screening until she came over to me. So we still want to follow the protocol, which usually starts with an HR screening, and then you kind of fall into the interview process. And she ended up being the best person for the role, and she was hired.
It's love hearing stories like that, because also it wasn't that her message necessarily got her the job, but it got her a foot in the door. It got her the interview, and then from there she obviously had to perform and do well throughout the process.
Exactly.
But yeah, you never know what message is going to lead to it. And I always say too, you're so surprised at who will respond or see your message.
Yep.
And I've even had girls in our accelerator at Sky Society that will reach out to founders of companies, and they might not respond, but they might send your information to HR.
You never know. And we get a lot of, hey, I got this message, forwarding it along if we have an open role. And we take those highly into consideration because it's a referral. So that's why I'm saying talk to everyone, be nice to everyone, cultivate these relationships, and don't be afraid to walk up and introduce yourself to someone if you're at a networking event. It's really, really powerful, and I think it's the best way. Even if you don't get, to your point, exactly what you want in that exact time, I believe also in manifestation and really manifesting what you want and taking ownership of that.
Absolutely. So how about in the interview process? Is there anything that you think can help make somebody stand out if they are going through an interview process right now, or any mistakes that you see a lot of people make that people should watch out for?
I think when you're in the interview process, I love getting asked questions. I think a lot of the time candidates are under the impression that they are the ones being catered to and not catered to, but the ones that have to prove themselves and really show why they want this job. But it's important to remember that you are also interviewing this company and this team. Is this a good fit for you? So I think the rebalancing of the scales to kind of reorient yourself of like, well, no, this is also my potential future. Is this a fit for me? Because I think it's easy to be excited by a flashy brand or a title or a team. But at the end of the day, it's important that you get all the information that you need to make the best decision should the role come to you. So asking a lot of questions and being intentional with those questions, I really love, because I want the candidate to feel like they've gotten everything that they need to make the best decision as well.
There's also a really interesting stat about how much more an interviewer likes you the more the interviewer talks about themselves, which I think is so true. Because
that's so funny.
When you're in interviews, like you are always asking people questions, and the candidates are talking. And but I feel like I love when a candidate can sometimes also you don't even need to wait till the end to ask your questions.
Exactly, ask it throughout. I love a conversational interview.
Yes.
It's uncomfortable for everyone when it's just a stuffy kind of like run of the mill. You want to feel like you're almost friends.
Yeah.
And I think that's the hallmark of a really strong interview.
Yeah. And yeah, you're getting the interviewer to talk to versus them being like, I've asked these questions like maybe multiple times today or to all the candidates. And when you start to ask questions, that makes the interview flow differently and can make it stand out, and also gives them an opportunity to talk about things that they like, which with psychology, if anybody else loves all that stuff too, like you'll know like they will also like you more if you get them to talk about themselves. So.
Right. And I love going off on a tangent. Like if the conversation leads to some rogue topic or cultural moment that's happening, I think that's, again, so much more fun. And then you get to see their personality, because I do think, and I think a lot of, brand executives approach interviewing this way, there are some skill sets that can be taught in a role. You can't always teach really strong communication skills. And in this industry, you need that, right? Because especially if you're in influencer marketing or PR or eventing. And so it's really fun to see candidates' personalities shine. And when they kind of let the guard down of it being an interview, it's really fun.
I also, too, I think sometimes we are so focused on qualifications and stuff in an interview, but the other reminder I always say is that when people are looking on who they're going to hire, that's someone that they're going to have to talk to every single day, be in all of their team meetings, go on team excursions, like all of those things. So they also want to make sure that it is a good personality fit, a good culture fit. And sometimes that doesn't necessarily come across if you're just in a stuffy back and forth question interview.
Absolutely.
All right. Now I want to go back to Murad for a little bit, because like you mentioned, you were there for quite some time.
Yes.
And I've got here, you had multiple different promotions while you were there. You, I'm sure, grew and learned a lot. I also know you mentioned you started your career kind of when influencer marketing was just getting off the ground. So can you share a little bit about the growth that you saw in yourself during your time there and kind of your biggest takeaways from that experience?
Absolutely. And I am so grateful to Murad. I will say, Dr. Murad is one of the best people that I know. I think of him as this starry-eyed, just perfect human. He's amazing. If anyone ever gets the opportunity to meet him, he's in his 80s and he is still the most fun, knowledgeable, exciting human that there is. So he definitely was a big part of my journey at Murad. And so it was my first in-house role. Started off as a manager, and it was, I'm trying to think when it was. So I was there when COVID happened, which was really interesting.
Oh my goodness.
So I started in April or May of 2019. So I was still quite new when the pandemic happened. And when that happened, the whole world obviously shut down, but brands very quickly went full digital. It was almost like a slap in the face, because you had gone from doing, all these traditional marketing tactics to, oh my gosh, everything needs to live on a screen. And so also in a weird way, that was a really propelling moment for myself and my team of how do we really engage our creators, up our social content, really dive into virtual events and creating this online world that everyone was very quickly trying to catch up with. And it almost felt exhausting, right? You're enough with the screens, enough with this, but you also wanted to connect with your community. In a time where there was no connection, it was really important to maintain that, even if it was virtual. So I do think that time helped not just everyone else, but myself in particular and my team of the value of really strong digital campaigns, which was kind of exciting. It was a different muscle flex. And as you mentioned at Murad, I kind of lived a few different lives. So I always was on the consumer engagement team, which consists of PR, influencer, social, and eventing. Started off more on the PR and event side, and then worked my way up from senior manager and then to director of global comms and events, and then director of integrated marketing communications, which I was then overseeing global PR, global comms, all eventing, and then influencer marketing, which was really exciting to come back into that world. I, as you had mentioned, kind of grown up with influencer marketing. And when I had come to Murad, we had a manager of influencer marketing, and she was amazing. She ended up leaving, so it kind of opened up a door for me to take this on again. And we had worked hand in hand and in tandem, but as I was growing, as the team was growing, as the needs were shifting, it just made sense for it to come under me. And I was really excited to get it back, because it's a really fun industry.
Can you share a little bit, because within the beauty space, I feel like that's when we see influencers almost the most. I feel like I'm always influenced by influencers when it comes to beauty. What do you feel like how do you feel beauty brands that are doing influencer marketing well, what are the key components of that? Because I do think it's more difficult now to stand out when, there's so many influencers, so many beauty brands. So obviously you got to see influencer marketing from the start all the way up until now. So anything that you try to incorporate, anything that you see when beauty brands are doing influencer marketing well?
Definitely. I think it's when you genuinely listen to your community, and that sounds so simple, but it's not, because sometimes what you want to push as a brand, so there could be an amazing new product technology that you're like, this is groundbreaking, it's so exciting, but it doesn't make any sense to the consumer. So I think leaning on your creators to authentically tell their side of why they love the product or what it is about the brand that they love, that's a bit unscripted, if you will, which can make brands nervous because you don't want someone to fully go off cuff or mistell a piece of information that could potentially be important from like a legal perspective. There's a lot of things with clinical claims. We ran into this a lot at Murad, where like if we didn't clinically address that this is clinically proven, it's all the legal jargon is there, you could potentially get in trouble. So it's a delicate dance, especially when you're a clinical brand, because you want this creative freedom. But from the legality perspective, you have to have the benchmarks and kind of check marks in place to ensure that nothing odd happens, but sometimes can make the content feel a bit stuffy.
Yeah.
So when I say, leaning and listening to your community, I mean listening to what they want, what they like, and then taking your product, your campaign, and shifting it to address what they're asking for, while you can still have these precautions in place, and you can make tiny little asterisks and disclaimers in the content. But I think really making sure it's also native to the creators that you're working with. They know their audience best and what performs best. So I think round peg, square hole. Let them kind of mold the brief into something that they feel will be really enticing and authentic to their page. And just to, toot Amika's horn a bit, we actually just had a launch back in August that was fully created by our community. They had been asking for this product for years. They'd been asking for us to bottle our scent into a hair and body mist. We have the same scent in all of our products. So if you've used Amika, you know it. It's a delicious scent. And everyone was like, please make this into a perfume. Please make this into a perfume, for years. And we did. We basically took the brief from all of the Instagram comments, the DMs, the emails, the Reddit threads, and created this product that our community asked for, that our creators had asked for. So when the time came to promote the product, launch the product, we just were like, here you go. And it took off like wildfire. And it was the most fun and rewarding campaign because it was so authentic to our community of creators, shoppers, consumers, what have you. It was exactly what they had asked for. So
how do you go about when you're working on a campaign like that that's so requested by your community? I'm also sure there's a lot of pressure, like, okay, they really, really want it. Like, we got to make sure that we deliver on this. So what goes on behind the scenes that us as customers might not know when it comes to maybe ideating it, executing it, and then also the marketing aspect of how do we tell everybody and get everybody excited that this is happening?
Yeah, so a few different things. I think on the back end, what people might not realize is that, and I can only really speak for Amika, but we are listening. Like the amount of time that the team is combing through DMs, comments, other comments on other videos, anything that we can kind of gather from a social listening standpoint is very important to us, and it's time consuming. So it's never without fail that we are not actually listening. I will say Amika does an amazing job at this and really making sure that we're in touch with our community. In terms of bringing it to life, it creates a bit of a shortened product development timeline because we don't want to wait too long, right? We want to see something and activate it on it quickly. But also we want to make sure that the product is perfect and it's exactly what our community would be expecting. But that gets shortened if you are trying to fast track an innovation. So that creates pressure right there. And then in terms of the launch, so Amika Aura Hair and Body Mist was the product that we launched for our community. We did a really fun social play. We wiped our socials saying that we were no longer a hair care brand. So it created a little bit of a frenzy because it was like, what do you mean? We did a really fun kitschy video with our CEO of her writing a letter to our community saying thank you so much for the past 15 years. we love all your support. We really appreciate you. And then no longer a hair care brand. So people thought we were going out of business. And in actuality, we were actually just entering a new market of fragrance. So we did a really fun tease and hype on social media, which got everyone really excited. And pretty much immediately they knew what it was going to be. And then in tandem, we had a lot of fun influencer content being like, oh my gosh, you guys, we've been asking for this for years. Here it is. And that was just authentic to them. We didn't have to ask them to do this or really push it because we already knew that was going to be the response. And then we tacked it on with some really fun events. We did a community dinner. We did a brand ambassador dinner, brunch, and then we did a really fun pop-up in New York City for our consumers because we wanted to make sure that we weren't just engaging our, editors and creators, but that actually we were engaging the people who have asked for this and really connect with them IRL. So that's always a really big piece of most of our campaigns is to ensure that we have an in-person touch point with our community.
Yeah, okay. I got so many questions. Okay, first I want to start because this is like a personal curiosity. I've seen brands do the wipe the Instagram before. How do you do that? Do you have to talk to Instagram about that? Do you go manually and archive everything? Like, how do you guys even do that?
Yes. So we have an amazing social team. They're tiny but mighty, and they're the best. So they worked with our rep at Instagram to help archive everything.
I was gonna say, there's no way brands are like individually.
No. And you can if you want to just if you wanted to, but you can work with your Instagram reps at Meta to mass archive, and then you can unarchive.
Okay. Yeah. Because you're like, we're not going to be fragrance forever only.
Exactly.
Okay. Amazing. Next question I had for you was, you mentioned that you did community dinner. Obviously, this is a community requested product. And we're starting to see more of this with brands hosting community influencer trips, right? Where instead of just sending influencers, they're sending community members. So, but it's also, I totally understand as a brand, like if you're going to, pay for an extravagant event, you are going to get way more, EMV if you have influencers there versus if you're going to have people there that don't have social followings. So how do you kind of approach that strategy of being able to involve and activate your community, but also be able to, still get reach and the success that you want from the campaign?
Definitely. It is a dance for sure, because we always want to be showing up for everyone, right? But to your point, we're one brand and we have to make sure that we're hitting marketing metrics. But at the end of the day, our community is Amika. Like the people purchasing Amika it's like our heartbeat. So every single campaign, every single launch, we ensure that we have a community piece that is at the forefront. We also just launched on TYB, Try Your Best, earlier this week, which for those of you who don't know, it is kind of like a loyalist platform. Anyone can join. You can engage in really fun challenges with the brand. You can get exclusive benefits, reveal certain launches, be the first to shop, be the first to try, really fun swag and merch. There's opportunity to do some fun content plays. It's really amazing. And that is really to engage our full community, aside from our creators. So we are really looking forward to doing a lot more on that app, and who knows, maybe a trip is in the future. It's something we have talked about and definitely want to prioritize as we come into 2026 and just making sure that we're always showing up for our community. We do a lot of fun social content too with just users of the brand. We love to repost if we see your stories. We love to engage. We want to make sure that that we are listening, because we definitely are. And so, like I said, for any campaign, launch, what have you, we'll have a consumer touch point, whether it's a brunch of like our most highly engaged brand ambassadors who are just, they're regular people, but they love Amika and we love them for how much support they've given us. Or we'll do a pop-up, a consumer pop-up. We're doing it for our Ulta launch in mid-December. So we want to make sure that we have that in-person touch point especially, but digitally now across Try Your Best TYB.
Okay, so interesting to hear, and just I think such a fun topic to watch, and I just think so many more brands are also starting to prioritize it too, which I think is so great, especially like we're talking about, well, there's lots of influencers, there's lots of beauty brands, and I really do believe in the power of a community. I was just talking with another guest about how AI gets, grows as much as it does, I feel like we're going to latch on and need community even more in the future. So I think it's really special to hear that. And even just hearing like how central it is to all of the campaigns and launches that you're doing, that you're keeping that at the forefront.
Absolutely. It's extremely important to us. And Amika was built as a community brand. So it's important that that stays in our DNA and at the forefront of our ethos.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, for you and your role, you touch a lot of different things in your role. And you also mentioned that you got an amazing team under you that helps and supports in all the different initiatives that you're working on. Can you talk to me a little bit about what leadership has been like for you and what growing into a leader has looked like?
Yes, as you can tell, I'm like beaming. I love my team so much. They are the most talented group of women that I'm lucky enough to work with and help shape their careers. And when I first started off, I had really amazing managers as well. I had my first manager ever. I talk about her a lot because she was the biggest champion of me. And I think the reason why I was able to scale so quickly in this industry, she was just the best boss ever. And it kind of set the precedent of having, amazing mentors and relationships, and me seeing her being like, I want to be that for my team too. And if you ever talk to my team, they'll tell you that I am massive on being your best own advocate. I think that no one knows how much you're doing besides you. So shouting it from the rooftops and really letting everyone know what you're doing, what accomplishments you're proud of, is super, super important. And then as a leader, making sure that that visibility then is brought all the way up to the executive level. So ensuring that our leadership team, our CEO, CMO, SVPs see the work of the team and individually get to celebrate their accomplishments. Also, no one's probably going to be at one job for their entire lives. So it's really important to me that while they're with me, they're growing not just their skill set, with Amika, but for their larger career and their larger goals. I want to make sure that when they're working and in their roles, that they're sharpening skill sets that they're interested in or want to dive into, while then I can still help massage not so much weaknesses, but anything that they're a little bit hesitant on, or how to kind of break through to make sure they have the confidence to take the next step. How can I put them on a track to a promotion, to a growth track? Because, when your team succeeds, you succeed, and they're a direct reflection of you. And I want nothing but for them to just get everything that they want in this industry and in their careers.
Well, I think all of us wish we had a boss like you. You sound incredible. And I love how you mentioned that started with like you having a great boss and you wanting to be that to the other people that are on your team. And I also believe it is just so special if you do get the chance to work with somebody who is an advocate for you and who really wants you to succeed. I think that can do so much for your career. And just hearing how much you also really love it, I feel like I can really relate to that. As Kylie, as we've kind of grown our team, it has been like surprisingly one of my favorite parts of what I do now, and I get so much fulfillment from it, from seeing them grow and learn. And
it's the best feeling.
It's truly the best
feeling. It really
is.
is.
And I didn't even know that was something that I would really love until I started to get into it, and now I absolutely love it.
Absolutely.
And it is really great when you see your team succeed, and like they absolutely are a reflection of you as well. So yes. I love hearing that. I loved also the advice that you mentioned about advocating for yourself. Can you share an example? So if I'm on a team and I want, I'm doing something incredible, like how can I shout myself out or advocate for myself?
I think it depends on how your team operates. So we are a very Slack heavy team. We love Slack. And so anytime the team, has this like a major, they're like, oh my gosh, like look at this. Look, we gifted this influencer and now she's featuring us organically and she's obsessed and it's having this massive moment, just as an example. I'm like, put it in the all company Slack, put it in the marketing channel Slack so that everyone can see the fruits of your labor. I think also as a leader, I do a lot of recaps for the team and I'm really intentional with, they tell me, what they're really proud of, and then I curate the entire message and give them individual shout outs so that everyone can see their impact. I think also having them speak up and lead meetings has been really fun. I'm kind of like pushing them to use their voice a bit more, which can be a little intimidating, but I want to make sure credit is, where it's due, that they're getting it. And so I think just having a really close relationship with your manager, and when you're proud of something, tell them. And odds are they're going to say, let's share it. Let's tell the greater company and show them the impact that you've made. I also talk to my team a lot about autonomy. It's my favorite word. I think sometimes, we're nervous to make a mistake, but I love mistakes. I think you should fail fast and then you learn from it, and it makes you a lot stronger. If you never fail or you never take a risk because you're waiting for someone else to approve it, it's going to be hard for you to take full initiative later on because you're always going to be worried about messing up. But if you mess up from the get-go, there isn't really much to be afraid of. And at the end of the day, these mess ups are so small in the grand scheme of your role, of the job, of the company. I think it's important that you have that feeling, and then you're better for it.
Yeah.
So
I always say, if you're not failing or making mistakes, like, you're not trying enough things.
And you're not growing. Yeah, you're not learning. So it happened recently, actually, and I was like, it's fine. Like, this is what I wanted to happen. So now you have the confidence because this happened and everything was okay.
Yeah, you have to take those risks sometime. I think that's really important to learn. Because I think, too, when you're younger, you just want to do a good job, right? You just it's like, I don't want to get in trouble. I want to do a good job. And so you might not, like, speak up and try that idea or go on your own and try that new thing because you're afraid of messing up. But it's so much better to just say the idea, because maybe you'll say 5 things and only one of them will get picked up. But the one that gets picked up is your idea, and that's so special. So
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. I love that. And I love kind of hearing your excitement about being a manager and being a boss. I think I actually recently read a book about leadership, and it was just talking about how important it is that if you are a leader, that you want to be a leader, because I think sometimes not everybody wants to be a leader for the right reasons. And the right reasons are that you do like to manage people and you do want to help them succeed, versus the wrong reasons would be that you want to be a leader just because that's like a step up or a promotion.
Right. And I think, I'm still really close with my VP of creative over at Murad. She was an amazing mentor to me. And she said to me once, she's like, being a leader is interesting because you can't take credit for anything that's done really well, and everything that goes wrong is your fault. So it's a really interesting role to be in. And I love being there because I will protect my team till the day I die. I'll take responsibility because at the end of the day, it's under your clock, it's under your watch. And when things go really well, I want them to be celebrated and get the credit. So you have to also be okay with that balance or lack thereof, knowing that you're making the team better, you're making the brand better, and you are kind of the glue. And I think it's a really special place to be, and a place that I personally thrive in.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, and then how about for you personally, in terms of your things that you are excited about? Is there anything in your career or in your industry that you are looking forward to or that excites you?
Oh my, like, how much time do you have? I am obsessed with my job. I really feel like the luckiest person ever. And I would say I'm really excited about, I'm going to call them new media channels. I've been obsessed with Reddit and Substack, and the use of AI is interesting. I think it can be really beneficial, but we're not going to lean too heavily on. I think it's nice for some insights and to kind of help summarize some ideas, which is amazing. But I like the idea of utilizing some of these new media pieces and levers. So I'm really excited to see what happens there.
I've also been watching Reddit and Substack. I just feel like I've been seeing everywhere.
Oh my gosh, I'm obsessed.
Yes. I'm new to Reddit. My little brother's been like showing me the ropes about it, and it's crazy.
I'm like deep in it now. I think Substack is a really fun creative platform that I think brands can potentially come into and have it be a fun moment. So stay tuned there as more comes about. I also think I'm seeing in marketing, and especially in beauty, we're kind of coming back to some of our roots of out-of-home marketing. So when you think about, billboards, and I've seen a lot of branded TSA bins, and this idea of going back to some more traditional levers of marketing, which, like, I'm obsessed. we live in Los Angeles. So seeing a billboard, I'm like, yes, I love that. So I think coming back a bit to, I don't want to call it old school marketing, but getting back to the marketing roots is kind of fun to see, almost like coming back to the OG marketing levers that I think will just never go away. Obviously, as the digital piece grows, it becomes more and more important.
But you can combine the two, which
You
I
can
think is so
absolutely
fun.
combine, and you should. It's the best way to reach all of your shoppers and consumers. And we always say that, we want to meet our consumers where they are. We want to come to them. We don't only want to do, a CTV ad spot with Bravo, because not everyone watches Bravo. So I think having a really diverse marketing 360 approach is, of course, important, but I am really excited to kind of dive into these new media verticals.
Yeah, Reddit's one I've been watching, and Substack too is also something that I think is really exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right. Well, we chatted about so much. The time has flown by. Do you have anything else you want to share with the marketing girlies?
I would just say that you can get and have everything that you want if you want to be a part of this industry or this world. Like I mentioned, you are your best own advocate. You're your best cheerleader. You should be kind of shouting it from the rooftops a bit. Don't make yourself small, make yourself big. I once had some feedback from a man that I asked too many questions, and it came across like I didn't want to help or be supportive. And my response to that was, no, I just want to be informed and I want to do the best job possible. So ask a lot of questions, be your own best advocate, and you can absolutely do it and get whatever you want from this industry.
Oh, giving me chills. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on Marketing Girly. This has been so much fun.
Thank you so much. This is amazing.